Good morning, I'm Julio Saenz along with Mauricio Riveros. Today we'll meet Deana Porterfield, president of Roberts Wesleyan College.
You will be inspired.
Celebrating leaders in Rochester's unique and vibrant business community, we'll meet entrepreneurs whose passion and perseverance have helped push through life's challenges. Join us as we share their stories and journeys to success. It's time to be inspired.
Dr. Porterfield, thank you very much for being in Be Inspired, a show that we have developed to inspire our community. We believe that bringing good news is very important for our community, and you are a special guest today. So let's start learning, who is Dr. Porterfield?
Oh, well, a little bit about myself. I'm a transplanted Californian. 5.5 years ago, I came from Southern California to Rochester, New York, to take the presidency at Roberts Wesleyan College and Northeastern Seminary. But I think what I would want people to know is I'm first-generation college student. My father did not graduate from high school, and so education was not really important in our family. And yet, education absolutely transformed my life. Christian education transformed my life through college, and then ultimately led me here.
That is wonderful. But to be able to achieve that important title that you have, there were, I'm sure, many things that happened in your life. If you can highlight some key elements that allow you to be the leader that you are.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's people, right? It's people that invest in you, people that take risks on you, encourage you and support you. And so the first significant person in my life was actually my stepmother, who came into my life about junior high, and I had been in the non-college prep track. That's what it was called at my school. So, I mean, that's a message, right? You're not going to go on to college. And she came along and she said, Deana, you're going to go to college, so let's start looking. And 4 years later, I end up at a Christian university in Southern California as a music education major. And it changed my life, because I had never thought of myself as a student. I had never seen that there was potential beyond maybe working at a fast food restaurant, getting married in my small town. You know, it opened my eyes. And so that next 4 years really changed who I was. I had faculty members and staff members who spoke into me, told me the truth, hard truth sometimes, and I graduated ready to be a high school music teacher and a part-time music minister in a church.
Wow.
And then, walking on the sidewalk of my alma mater, somebody stepped out and said, Deana, they keep saying you'd be a great admissions counselor. And I said, really? I don't know. And they said, let us have a conversation with you. I had a conversation on a Friday, and on a Tuesday I was offered a job, and I completely changed my trajectory. And I became this admissions counselor recruiter for my institution, and I worked there for 26 years. So you think 26 years, a lot happens in that time, right? But really what happened for me is people began to believe in me. They began to really hold me accountable for my behaviors in the right way. They encouraged me to get education and to move on, and gave me opportunity. I mean, that's the truth, right? They gave me access into positions that I would normally not have had. And it just opened a whole new life for me. And here I am, you know, now. I mean, with a doctoral degree, my stepmother would just be amazed. She's in heaven now. But she'd be amazed that here I sit as the president of a college and a seminary as someone that wasn't supposed to go to school. So that's a pretty, pretty big part of who I am.
And it's amazing to hear the story of how your stepmother impacted your life and your decision to go to college. Once you were in college, and maybe having worked there a few years, when was there a role model or someone that inspired you to think, I could have a career in higher ed?
Well, you know, it starts slowly, right? So you're 22, you're admissions counselor. So, a couple years in, you're like, I could be the director of admissions. Or I could be this position. And, but there was one significant person. At the time he was the vice president, and he ended up being the president of the university. And he always gave me opportunity to try something new, fix another problem, right? So I had my core job, I always had to get that done, but I was given a problem, and I would go out and I'd find energy to do it, which really goes to why I think I am who I am and what I'm called to do, which is to help people, to make a difference in the lives of the organization through the people, right? So he gave me these opportunities, and he's the one, that would confront me and be a truth teller when I wasn't doing the things I was supposed to do. He was the one that would say, like, I mean, I've told this story over my career. I was probably 27 and I was in a meeting and I was very expressive. I still am, but I mean, I was really expressive. So if I didn't agree, you saw it on my face, and you know, I leaned in and I got loud and all these things. And I guess, I don't remember the meeting, but I guess I didn't agree with somebody in the meeting. And I let them know what I thought. And after the meeting, he pulled me aside and he said, it's really great to have an opinion and be in conversation, but no one deserves to be thrown up on. And he said, so all that energy, all that passion you have, remember what comes across, right? And you don't want to hurt people in the delivery. And it was some of the best advice I received, and he kept doing that along the way. But he also said, Deana, it's time for you to get your master's degree. Deana, it's time for you to go back to school and get your doctorate. And let's figure out a way for you to do that. So, you know, those people are really critical in your journey.
And that is wonderful because we have those role models and we follow and we want to be who we admire.
Yes, yes.
But the element of education, and you of course are in education, how important is and how essential is for a leader to be educated?
Right. So I know that traditional higher education isn't for everyone, but I believe education is for everyone. And that education is about knowing yourself. So how do you understand who you are as a leader? You have to either use that through school, because there's ways you can do that through your education in higher ed, or through tools and resources that you have to get to know who you are. I really believe you can't lead a team until you can lead yourself. And you can't lead an organization until you can lead a team.
That's very insightful, especially the idea of leading yourself.
Right.
That's a great concept, because I just, you have to be able to be organized and get your ducks in a row before you can inspire that in other people. I've never heard it put that way.
And that, I think, aligned with that element also is to be able to deal with change.
Right.
And my next question is, how do you deal with change? Because we are in constant change, and the change is faster and faster in education, and many new challenges and all that. How you lead with change?
Yeah. So, you know, change is constant. It's the one constant these days. Everybody says that, right? So I'm one of those that's motivated by change. I like change. I like energy and new excitement. I think the greatest challenge, though, is to know what to keep in your plan and what to alter. And there's this wonderful article I read one time called Making Judgment Calls. And it's talking about you set your goal out in the future, and along the way, information comes. And most people either abandon the goal or charge through to the end and don't pay attention. And along the way, there are these loops that come in with information, and you can do these redo loops while you still hit the goal. I think change is that. Change is coming, and your ability to stop and assess how impactful will this be on where we're headed, what do we need to do to adjust, and how quickly do we need to adjust. And that's where I think the people component of the organization is so important, because if you have relationship and transparency, then not that people like change, but they're less surprised and they're able to make adjustments to go with you in those redo loops, which are really important.
And speaking of change in higher ed, what do you see as the future of higher education? I know that's a broad question, but maybe some of the key points, some of the key trends that you're seeing.
Well, I think it's been here for a while, but affordability and accessibility are critical. And I think for us in New York State and around the country, and you'll see that in the election, it's trying to find ways to make education accessible to people and affordable. I think what we have to do, though, at institutions like Roberts Wesleyan College is we have to be innovative to try to figure out how to be affordable, but also talk about what makes us different. You know, at Roberts, our goal is to graduate women and men who know how to connect their head to their heart and engage their hands in service. It's what makes us unique. And so we can't hide that. We have to keep that on the forefront, but we have to be innovative to find ways to reach students, especially in this market, in this climate, because we're in a challenged climate here in New York, as we know, especially up in Western New York, with a demographic that's declining and challenges that are out there. But I think my hope is that I know that students are still looking, and families are still looking for education that's going to develop the character of their student, and that's at the core of who we are. So I believe that we'll still be in the game, but we've got to be able to adjust accordingly.
And I think you touch a very important point, because Roberts is really developing a different type of leaders.
Yeah.
So if you can describe a little bit more, what are the characteristics of the leaders that are coming out from your university?
Right. So Roberts has a motto of education for character, and so we're 154 years old. And imagine that, education for character. What did that mean back in the 1800s? Something different in some ways than it does today, but really the same. And that is, how do you graduate students that know how to go into community and be a good neighbor, someone you want to live next to, someone you want to hire, someone that you know is going to want the best interest of your organization and the best interest of the people that you're working with, right? Someone that makes ethical decisions. It's not that we'll be perfect, but we know how to establish a foundation on how to make those decisions in your life and how to go out into a community and serve. So our founder, B.T. Roberts, who actually was an abolitionist and a preacher, and he actually also believed in women's leadership in the 1800s, so he was fighting right there with Susan B. and Frederick Douglass. I mean, the fact is, we believe that if we're clear on who we are, we can't help but engage and serve the community. That's the difference. We're not getting education just to better ourselves. We're getting an education so that we can take those components of who we are and be in the community making a difference.
And speaking of trying to maintain those ideals in a society that trends a bit more secular, how do you bake that into your classes and the philosophy of the teaching that goes on there?
So, you know, we're in a very polarized community right now, and it seems to be growing, in my opinion. You just look on the media, whether it's social, TV, whatever, you have this very polarized piece. How we do that is through intellectual and spiritual humility. And that piece of that character component, which teaches students, how do I identify injustice, because we want to stand for injustice, but how do I do it in a way that asks the right questions and listens and brings communities together? So I may not have it all figured out. So when I come and ask a question, I'm going to listen to understand that. It's okay to have differing views. What's not okay is to polarize to the sides and pick up a bat and start hitting people and throwing up on them, right? Whether that's on social media or on the other, that's the part we don't want. Now that's an exaggeration, but it's not really in some cases, right? And so for Roberts, our students, our goal is that they walk away knowing how to listen. They know how to engage in conversation. They know how to have some empathy towards a brother or sister they come in contact with that's hurting. And they are able to bring communities together. Doesn't mean always agreeing, but it means I may have something to learn. That's the difference. And from a humble space.
Well, thank you so much. We'll be back with more after these messages.
And I think that's an element that is very unique in today's world, because I was just in a panel of leadership, and one of the things that people are losing this concept of servant leadership. Be able to really serve and identify how through that you can grow and you can grow others. Now, in this element of leadership, let's go a little bit farther. Technology, transformation, a lot of innovation happening. How Roberts is adopting the technology and what is happening in Roberts in terms of innovation?
Yes, so we have a lot going on. It's all part of our strategic plan, and we're moving forward. So Roberts has always been very innovative. And so we were the first adult programs in Rochester. I'm very proud of that. We're one of the first Masters of Social Work programs that were accredited out here in this region. Very proud of that. But we also know that in order to be affordable and accessible, we're going to have to reach the students where they're at. So that is online, which we've already had 200 online students. We've been in that space since the 80s, but we're going to be expanding that and trying to reach out into communities in a new way. We've developed a corporate partner program of companies that have 250 or more employees, where we offer a tuition benefit to the employee and to their spouses. If you have a company that has 250 more employees and you're not a partner, no cost to the company. But what we're doing doing is we're saying, hey, if you'll advertise our program, not exclusive just to Roberts, but that scholarship is your students can come get an education here.
But let's talk about Rochester a little bit.
Yeah.
Now you have been many years here and understanding the community.
Yes.
How do you see Rochester? And I am asking this question because I think Roberts plays a huge role to engage people and stay here in Rochester and grow business here in Rochester. We interview a lot of entrepreneurs. So how do you see Rochester?
So, so I was a Californian my whole life until I moved here, 5.5 years ago. And let me just tell you, I was blown away by Rochester. I really was. I mean, the history, the technology, the innovation, the philanthropic work, it is unbelievable. I think we are a hidden space, right, in the U.S. that people don't realize. When you get here, though, and you've never lived here, you say to yourself, wow, I'm part of this rich history that has not just that's who we were, but because of how we were founded is the potential of where we can go. So, I mean, think about it. We were at the birthplace, right, of where Susan B. Anthony cast her first vote, where Frederick Douglass did civil rights work, right, where so many other preachers like B.T. Roberts, let me just say, and abolitionists were making a difference here. Then you bring along George Eastman, who brings this total innovative piece to this, right, and it starts to explode. What I want people to know, and when I talk to them about coming to Rochester, it's not just about the weather. Sure. It's not just about the weather. It's absolutely about the innovative spirit and the energy that exists. And I think there's an energy that you don't see in other communities right here in Rochester. And what I love is that Roberts Wesleyan College is in Rochester. Now we're on the west side, and I just want to, people think we're in Buffalo. We're not in Buffalo. We're like 15 minutes outside of the city. It's not that far. But we really try to build on the fact that we're a part of this community. The arts, the sports, the different components that we have are in the education, which is, I think, above all around the country. We have this amazing culture and community that's right here.
So going back to the non-traditional students,
yes, yeah.
I know Roberts was one of the first to have courses and programs that tailored to working folks.
Yes.
What do you see as the future of that here in the area? You have a lot of folks that are maybe going back to school. As you said before, maybe higher ed in the traditional sense may not be for everybody, but education is for everybody. Right.
So the adult programs that we offer, which we're seeing other institutions model after us in that and other in the area, but it really is, it's working adults that are looking to get advancement in their careers, and they need a degree to get that advancement or education of some sort. And so the 1 night a week, right, model, the online model, those are the ways that we can help working adults complete their degrees. And to do it in a short period of time, right? 18 to 22 months. And so when somebody says, wow, in 18 months, in 22 months, 1 night a week, I can complete my degree, and that's going to allow me to get promoted at work, maybe get a pay raise, maybe even move companies to go someplace else. I think that's what people see, and that's why they come to the programs. And they hear good words about that. But it is the future of where education is going. Those are the populations that are growing. The traditional 18 to 22-year-old is struggling nationally in the numbers because of a population change.
And we talk about local needs, we talk about local environment, but let's go a little bit out and talk about global environment what Roberts is doing to help the students to understand this global community that we are living now.
Right. So one of the things is that we have a focus on global education, and that's more than just study abroad. There's a study abroad program. You can pick a country and go. You can also do work experience through mission programs as well. But what we've done is we've said, okay, we're so committed to this that one of our programs is called the Global Honors Program. And after 2 years, the first year, we're focused on Rochester. We want to understand what Rochester is doing, what the economy looks like. No matter what your major is, we're going to focus in that and have you do internships and shadow people in that program. The second year, we're going to focus on a country. And that country for us right now is Brazil. And so students learn Portuguese, and at the end of that sophomore year, they go for 3 weeks to Sao Paulo, and we partner with the Methodista Institution, and they take 9 units. And at the end of their program, after they've shadowed individuals in Sao Paulo based on their area of study, and they, by the way, they live in the community with families, they will come back and they will have gone through the honors program, and then they can choose to continue in a research honors program for us. But what we're saying is we want that to happen by their sophomore year, because if it happens by their sophomore year, when they come back to the campus, they're talking about global experiences. They're talking about what's happening in other cultures and other communities. And so that's one of the ways that we've done that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am very impressed on how holistic is the approach of Roberts. And I want to say thank you and congratulations, because you are leading a process that is completely different, very unique, very important for our community. And I'm sure that we will have the opportunity to have you again in our show. But I want to say thank you in name of all our community for everything that you are doing, Dr. Porterfield.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Coming up next week, we'll meet Greg Liederman, entrepreneur and coach in leadership development. To watch today's episode and the complete interviews of our guests, go to rochesterfirst.com/be-inspired. For more great talk with Rochester's entrepreneurs, listen to Poder 97.1, Saturdays at 9 a.m. For Mauricio Riveros, I'm Julio Sáenz. We'll see you next week on Be Inspired.